Hi everyone, this is Piyal and I am here to share with you my journey from being a PhD student to starting a career in an industry. I have a set of questions to guide me through this discussion, and I hope to be able to share with you certain nuances, certain things that I faced, and some of my advices on it. So let's begin. I've got my questions here. So let's just get on with it. First question. Which year did you join? Which center or department? Which year and degree, if you were a student, did you leave with? I joined TIFR Mumbai in the year 2010. I was an integrated PhD student in the Department of Biological Sciences in TIFR Mumbai, and I graduated with a PhD in 2019. Question 2. What is your job title and what do you actually do? I'm a senior medical information officer in a pharma multinational company. In medical information, we provide scientifically accurate and balanced responses to scientific or medical queries on our products. So in my job, I have to be basically top of the game with various medical literature databases. I have to be able to do a robust literature search to get to the relevant data, make sense of the data, and be able to reproduce it. As a senior, apart from all of these, my responsibilities also include quality monitoring to ensure operational, alignment across the region, to seek out and strategize on areas of continuous improvement, and lead or contribute to various cross-functional collaborative projects. Question 3. When did you first think of pursuing a non-academic career and why? You see, I was never closed to the idea of a career outside of academia in the first place. And at the same time, I did not come to do a PhD because I wanted an academic career. Now, I did a PhD because it was fun, because PhD would teach me, or PhD taught me rather, how to handle a problem, how to identify the problem statement, how to, ask the right questions, and how to arrive at a logical conclusion. So in my mind, from the very onset, PhD and career were not one and the same things. And, a little strangely, I find it very funny when people muddle the lines between a PhD and a career. Nevertheless, long story short, the idea of a career outside of academia did not really dawn upon me one day. It has always been there. Question 4. How did you begin to explore your options? I started by talking to people. I spoke to my seniors, my juniors, my peers from in TIFR, from outside TIFR, from in science, from outside science, basically whoever crossed my path. Basically what I was doing was networking. We in DBS, so we the students even got together and formed a group where we invited people from various industries to come over for an informal career guidance session. And to our amazement, we did not have to really reach out far and wide. These were people who we already knew. They were either people from our TIFR colony or our ex-students or their connections. We even had a WhatsApp group where we were actively sharing various job opportunities, academic and non-academic alike. And these conversations, oh my God, exposed to me the various job options that are available. And I was surprised, literally surprised to see that how many different options are actually available. So that really solved the, problem of the seeming dearth of options. Now, having tackled that, let me now share how I began my hunt. Now, the first thing was I was never fixated on any one kind of job. My approach has always been, and it is always like that I'm open to try new things, but what is important for me is to identify the kind of jobs which did not resonate with me, basically with which I couldn't connect. So those were the ones that I, kind of weeded out. And once that was done, I kept on actively networking with people in the sphere that I was interested in. I tried to understand what are the skill sets that I need to have and made good use of social media platforms. Basically, I kept a tab of the job postings that are coming out. I read through what are the requirements for that, just to be, just to prepare myself. And I also remember that in some cases where I found a job posting has come out from a company, and there is someone who is basically known to a friend of mine, I would reach out to that friend to connect me to this someone, right? So that I can understand the job better. So basically, I was doing avid networking. And apart from all of these networking bits, there are a couple of other things that I did. And that the first of it was I invested heavily time and energy to learn how to craft a CV or resume. Mostly I watched videos or the various online resources. I took advice from my friends. Basically, what I needed to do was to put my CV ahead of the line, and that was what I was putting my energy behind. Second that I did was I identified the skills that I have developed during my PhD. And here I really don't mean the gel electrophoresis or cloning technique or confocal microscopy, none of those. The skills that I was basically trying to unearth from within were the transferable skills, the soft skills, one might say. For example, critical thinking, teamwork, problem solving, data analysis, being able to learn on the job, fast adaptability, all of these things that we develop during PhD, but we never really think of them as skills necessarily. And the third, and in some cases the most important thing that I invested my energy behind, was to learn the corporate lingo. Because what I felt was a lot of the disconnect was because we were not, or at least I was not, understanding their language. So I had to make that conscious effort to be able to understand their language. And then I realized it's basically saying the same thing but in a different language. So these were the ones that were my first stepping stones in my hunt. And after that, of course, the basic the basic premise of the hunt is to look out for options and apply. Question 5. How did you land your first job outside of academia? Very important question. And very simply put, I applied, got called for the interview, and cracked the interview. But jokes apart, a junior of mine posted this opportunity in the WhatsApp group that I just mentioned. I reached out to her to understand the role better and any other questions that I might have had at that point of time. Now, having done that, the next steps that I took can be classified into broadly 3 categories. The first is understanding the job description, or JD as it is most commonly called. So you see, whenever an organization puts out a job opportunity, they provide a detailed job description, a JD document. Now, this document provides an overview of the role, the responsibilities that are required, the demands of this role, the qualification, the expectations. For example, if this job would require you frequent travels, etc., etc. So basically, it gives you a very good outline of what the job is going to be. But it gives you all of these required details only when you know how to read it. And that's where understanding the corporate lingo or learning the corporate lingo comes handy. Now, once you know what they're trying to see, you will see that the job description is strewn with certain keywords and emphasis. These are basically, so if you string these keywords together, these would then give you a better picture of the job. So basically, I read and reread the job description. I underlined whatever I thought was the keyword or the emphasis and tried to rephrase the job description in my mind. And this rephrasing is also important later because it's a standard question in the interview process where the panel would ask you to tell them your understanding of the job. So that was my step 1. Step 2 was crafting my CV. Now, this is an absolute important step. It was absolutely important for me to tailor-make my CV each time I applied for a job, and of course for my first job. So basically, there are no one CV fits all like role kind of thing. And honestly, if you have a standard CV and if you're just pushing it out for any job role, I'm sorry, that's not going to take you anywhere. So it's important. The reason why it is important to tailor the CV is because that then shows you or shows how aligned are you to that job role. So I took a recourse from various online resources, looked up videos, took advice from my friends and family. So basically whoever I could reach out to and I thought could be helpful. And the basic point that I was having in mind while recrafting my CV was to incorporate as much of the keywords as possible in my CV, such that the alignment between my experience, that is my CV, and the expectations of the role are clearly brought out. So having done that, the third aspect was preparing and appearing for the interview. Yes, I prepared for the interview, not only about the questions, like preparation was also for how to dress, how to greet, how to behave when I'm waiting in the lobby, all of these go into preparation. So I looked up various, again, online resources to see what are the type of questions and what do those questions actually mean, how to approach them, what are the standard set of, buckets of questions. And I prepared some set of model answers in my head. I also had some backup answers. And what I realized was when I was doing this exercise is it's important neither to bluff nor to undersell yourself, but be tactfully true, right? And there was another most important thing that needs to be done, and which I did, was to have some relevant questions prepared, because it's a very standard process in the interview where the panel would ask you if you have any questions for them, and your response cannot be no, thank you, right? You better have some questions, because it also shows the panel how much are you thinking about the job, how much have you put in your effort to understand what the job is, right? So apart from these standard processes, there's one other thing that I did, and that was mostly during the interview. It was that I tried to sell my PhD as a job experience. Now, in that, basically, I was trying to tell them how PhD is actually much more than just a university degree. I tried to tell them that how having done a PhD, I already have some of the skills that they were looking for, like working in the team or being able to lead some project. I was also trying to tell them that I have some experiences, like, talking to collaborators, running a collaborative project, or speaking to stakeholders, floating a project, etc., that I have already picked up during PhD, albeit it is completely in a different context. But I do have those skills and experiences which align me better to that job. And so after all of these, it is absolutely, dependent on the performance in that interview room. So yeah, question 6. How did you land your current job? Well, you see, the current role that I'm in is just basically rising up the ladder in the first job that I went into. So technically, the answer to the previous question is also the answer here. But in our organization, even for these rises, one has to apply with a CV and has to go through an interview process. So again, I had to recraft my CV, keeping in mind the added responsibilities and the expectations and how I align with it. So again, basically putting the emphasis on the fact that CV has to be tailor-made every time you're applying for a job, right? And the interview process here is basically more in depth and focused on the job. It is about the responsibilities, what I think of them, how I can deliver on them, what are my thoughts, how would I set the the key performance indicators, etc., etc. Question 7. What are the best parts of your job? Well, in my job, no 2 days are the same. I simply don't know how many queries will I receive tomorrow or what will they be. So, simply put, each day is a fresh start. Or, well, almost. Apart from this, I'm also involved in various projects on various different topics or aspects. In different project groups, I have different roles with varied degree of responsibility. For example, in some, I am a contributing member, while in the others, I might be leading that project. So, this gives me an opportunity to work with colleagues from literally across the globe. And this sort of work culture or work gives me a good exposure to various types of works, different types of departments, nuances of work, work cultures, as well as various different cultures. Apart from this, from a more process perspective, everything is very well structured. It is very clear who does what. That is the division of work is very clear. There are clear work instructions and standard operating processes. There are clear goals, that is what needs to be achieved, and there is clear accountability. Everybody is equally accountable, and that is something I really like. Basically, in a nutshell, it has got a very good structure into itself, yet it leaves room for newer ideas and thoughts for improvement on the processes or reevaluation of operations, and at the same time puts a lot of emphasis on accommodating people's well-being and their personal need. And this is something that I really like. So overall, it kind of keeps me on my toes, and at the same time, it is an enriching experience. Question 8. What are the challenges? Well, first, let me put it out there that according to me, challenges are not necessarily negative. I see challenges more as areas where I can or need to learn more. Now, having said that, managing time in one's calendar is definitely a challenge, especially when you're working with colleagues from across the globe, across multiple time zones. So finding that sweet spot of time during the day, which is conducive for every time zone, it's a challenge in itself. Other than this, my job also needs me to be change agile. Being change agile means being able to learn new things in a very short amount of time. And this new thing could be a new process, could be the working of a new department, could be reading up and digesting new piece of information or data that might have just come out, or learning to work on a new software platform while at the same time carrying on with your day-to-day job. So these are all challenges in itself. And being a lead has its own share of challenges with managing people, projects, the key performance indicators, and the various project updates. But as I said, I don't regret or despise any of these. These are what enrich my job. These are the little spices that keep my job really very interesting. Question 9. Is there anything you do not like about your job? Well, I'm yet to find one. You see, my joining of this role was a thought through decision. I knew what I was, or kind of knew what I was signing up for. So, no surprises there. Question 10. Is there anything that makes you wish you had continued in academia? Well, not really. Because you see, our department is a microcosm of scientists from various fields of biology, chemistry. There are physicians, there are pharmacists, etc. So basically, we are a bunch of science guys. So I never felt that too much distanced from science anyway. And the last question. Any advice for current PhD students in your subject? Yes, of course. But first, I would like to rephrase the question and take out the in your subject part, because I think what I'm going to say is more generally applicable. Okay, so let's start. My first point is shun the idea that having done a PhD casts you or sets you up for one type of career, or that not being in academia means you are not doing science anymore. I have heard of these many times, I have been told of this many times, and honestly speaking, I haven't heard anything funnier or stranger, right? So basically, don't feel restricted, don't let anyone pull you down, and don't let anyone's narrow-minded comment bother you or affect you. Point 2, think well. Think and think. Think, what do you want to do? Think, where do you want to drive your career? Basically, you do your own thinking and do not let anyone else do that for you. Third, important, network. I can't emphasize more on the need for network. Just go out there, talk to people. The more you do that, the more you will find that there's a whole wide world of opportunities just waiting out there. So there is no dearth of opportunities. It's just that you need to tap into it. So go out there, network, talk to people. 4, be ready to put in the hard work. You see, all of your networks, your connections, people you talk to can lead you onto some path, can guide you, can help you out with your career progression, but they can't do the hard work for you. And the hard work is basically looking up the jobs, reading the JD, understanding it, digesting what the demands of the job is, aligning yourself, your CV, crafting your own CV. So all of these things, and finally, of course, applying for the job and appearing for the interview. So all of these things need to be done by you. So be prepared to put in this hard work. I know it is frustrating. It can be really, really tiresome. But the only thing that you can do is know that, be prepared about it, take some steps to ensure your mental peace. Don't feel disheartened if you're getting a rejection. Don't feel dejected. Just bite the bullet and carry on. So be prepared. Simply, again, be prepared to put in the hard work. 5th, be open-minded. No one job is any glorious than any other job. Doesn't matter what people tell you. 6, in whatever you do, only continue if you feel engaged. The moment you feel disengaged from it, do not continue. Continuing by being half-hearted or disengaged, in my opinion, is a recipe for disaster. So it's better to not do it and continue only when you are completely feeling at one with what you are doing. And 7, and my last point of advice is make your priorities clear. First, make it clear to yourself, and then whenever you're going for a job interview or whatever, make it clear to everyone else. And your priorities basically is about yourself, right? It's your career, it's your life. You are the one who would know where to guide it. And of course, your priorities should definitely include not only your career goals, but also your personal happiness and your well-being, both mental and physical. That was all from my side. To wrap up, I can only say that through this question and answer, you might have realized that the process at its bare bones is not very different from what we have already done or would be doing while selecting our PhD or postdoc labs. The differences are only in the nuances, and some of which I tried to touch upon through the set of questions as I was answering them. But what is important is to first know, and know it for good, that there is a world of opportunities out there. You just only need to tap into them. And second, that your skills that you have acquired during your PhD are much beyond any of the experimental techniques or any of the experiments that you have picked up. I would be, happy to discuss further. If you have any questions, feel free to just reach out to me. Till then, cheers.